there, wrestling pals. It's episode 3 of Shit the IWC Says. So get your coffee ready and let's get going. So today we are going to be talking about wrestling fans, the Attitude Era, and Vince Russo. And I am not ready for the smoke.
God, bro.
A conversation that I see out there a lot across all social media platforms from the IWC is that wrestling isn't what it used to be and they miss the Attitude Era. If you can't find a wrestling promotion that resonates with you, just don't watch it and don't complain about it. But there are tons of promotions out there, and always support indie wrestling, support your local wrestling promotion. That's a little sidebar. Now, I completely understand, the feeling of nostalgia, that first time high of watching wrestling when you were a kid with your parents, Monday morning, Saturday morning, Friday night, whenever the hell you were watching wrestling. I understand nostalgia always has a little place in our hearts. And I can also understand with the Attitude Era, there were such big personalities, big moments. We are always going to have a special place in our hearts for the people that grew up with the Attitude Era to miss that era. We can also agree that there is a lot of things from the Attitude Era that just would not jive in today's society, nor should they. Example, maybe how they treated women. So that being said, I do see the Attitude Era get this put up on a pedestal, golden era, beautiful, perfection all over the board. In the same breath, a lot of people do hate on Vince Russo.
Bro.
Now let's get into a little bit of back history of the man that ruined wrestling. Allegedly. So Vince Russo started off as a freelance writer in 1992 for the WWF, moving to the creative team in 1996. Now, as most of us know, in the 90s, we had something called WCW. And in the 90s, WCW and WWF were having the Monday Night Wars. And WCW was dominating. So now that WCW is eclipsing WWF in the ratings, Vince McMahon asks Vince Russo to help change the product. Vince Russo's writing style came to be known as Crash TV, which was heavily inspired by Jerry Springer. R.I.P. And in 1997, Vince Russo was head writer of WWF. That same year, 1997, the Attitude Era began. Now, I know some of y'all, if not all y'all, have seen Jerry Springer. Very adult content, fighting, scrapping, overly sexualized, stuff like that. And WWE does credit Vince Russo for many of those storylines. Now, this is a completely different debate that we can have because the IWC does talk about when the Attitude Era started and ended, but it started the end of 1997 and ended 2002. But let me know why I'm wrong in the comment. Now, while Vince Russo did leave WWF for WCW in 1999, he was really the one to kickstart the Attitude Era. I don't really think that's debatable, but I know you're going to debate me about it, so let me know why. So here is a list of Vince Russo storylines in the Attitude Era. The Headbangers were a tag team in the 90s. Both men were set to enter the Royal Rumble in 1999. Plans for the tag team were kiboshed when Thrasher suffered a knee injury. With no plans for the second half of the Headbangers, Mosh, Vince Russo enters the chat. Back in the late 50s, early 60s, there was a show called Leave It to Beaver. If you don't know, it's just a wholesome show about the misadventures of a suburban boy and his family. Only Vince Russo could take this iconic sitcom and make it into, well, what it turned into. Now the metalhead Mosh is Beaver Cleavage. Beaver Cleavage and his mother, Miss Cleavage, had a very unusual relationship. Or I guess the insinuation is that their relationship would be illegal. Vince Russo has come out in recent years to say that they were not mother and son, but nobody believes you, sir. So there's a lot of examples of terrible, terrible storylines that Vince Russo came up with. One that pops into my head, as well as the beaver cleavage one, which is the one that I chose because that one made me super uncomfortable, and he has admitted to that one. One that he will not admit to, and it's still up for discussion, is Katie Vick. I don't even think I could talk about that on YouTube without getting banned and otherwise. And you know what? Let's leave that in the past. He has said adamantly that he has not come up with that storyline. He never came up with that storyline. I tend to not believe that, but also a lot of amazing storylines that Vince Russo did come up with. But one thing that I do want to talk about, and wrestlers have went on record to speak about this, is the kind of view Vince Russo had on wrestling. So his view, as we can probably notice, is more, which could work in his detriment, but also the benefit of a lot of superstars that we have grown to love. Now, one superstar, an iconic name in the WWE, WWF, is The Rock, aka previously known as Rocky Maivia. Now, The Rock has gone on the record on social media and interviews and actually sang praises to Vince Russo. One quote from The Rock says, "I loved working with the guy. I had a lot of crazy out-of-the-box ideas and he wouldn't even bat an eyelash. He would say, 'That's great, let's do it,' and we would have so much fun." The heel turn from Rocky Maivia to The Rock is also accredited to Vince Russo. So Rocky Maivia was this super baby face. He wasn't getting as much love as we can all agree as The Rock. Rocky Maivia made that heel turn that Vince Russo really pushed for. That's when The Rock evolved and got us all into this huge chokehold. Another superstar that Vince Russo really pushed for, and a lot of people didn't think was ready, Triple H, The Game. You can see why somebody may not love Vince Russo and all of his ideas. I think the man just had too many ideas, and not all of them are gonna be good. And when his bad ideas were bad, they were awful. If you're gonna love the Attitude Era and all the big name superstars and big characters and big storylines, you have to accredit some of that to Mr. Vince Russo. So let me know what you think below. Tell me what you love about the man. Tell me what you hate about the man. Let's go.